Life will test you. It will break you if you let it. It will push you to the edge, strip you of comfort, and challenge everything you believe about yourself. But the ones who endure, the ones who rise stronger, are the ones who understand that strength is not given, it is built. To become unbreakable, you must forge yourself in fire. You must strip away weakness, detach from the opinions of others, and train your mind to withstand anything. The ancient Stoics knew this. They lived by it, and their wisdom has stood the test of time. The lessons they left behind are not theories. They are weapons, and those who wield them cannot be broken. Most people live at the mercy of their emotions. They react instead of acting. They allow anger, fear, and doubt to dictate their choices. They live in constant worry about things they cannot control, wasting energy on the opinions of others, on circumstances beyond their reach. The unbreakable man does not. He knows that control is an illusion, except for one thing: himself. He does not try to shape the world to his liking. He shapes himself to withstand the world. You will face hardship. That is inevitable. But the Stoic does not ask why life is hard. He asks how he can become stronger. He does not complain about unfairness. He adapts. He does not run from struggle. He welcomes it, because he understands that difficulty is not an obstacle, but the path. The weak seek comfort. The strong seek challenge. And the strongest of all embrace suffering as the price of power. The first test of an unbreakable mind is in how it handles adversity. Do you shatter under pressure, or do you use it to sharpen yourself? When life strikes you down, do you see yourself as a victim, or do you see the opportunity to rebuild yourself stronger than before? Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, ruled during a time of war, betrayal, and plague. But instead of complaining, instead of falling into despair, he used every hardship as training. He understood that nothing outside of him had the power to shake his inner peace. He controlled one thing: his own mind. That is the key. The Stoics trained themselves not to fear loss. Money, status, possessions, even life itself. These things are temporary. They can be taken in an instant. But what cannot be taken is your ability to respond. The unbreakable man understands this. He does not cling to what is temporary. He does not tie his happiness to things outside his control. He does not depend on comfort or external validation. His strength comes from within, and because of that, it cannot be touched. The modern world breeds weakness. It tells you that discomfort is bad, that hardship should be avoided, that emotions should dictate your decisions. But that is a lie. The men who built empires, who commanded respect, who stood strong in the face of unimaginable trials, they were not soft. They did not seek ease. They knew that a life of comfort produces nothing of value. They understood that true power comes from resilience, from discipline, from the ability to stand in the fire and remain unmoved. Your mind is either your greatest weapon or your greatest weakness. If you do not train it, it will betray you. It will whisper lies. It will tell you that you are not strong enough, that you should quit, that the pain is too great. But if you master it, if you control it instead of letting it control you, then nothing, no failure, no insult, no loss, will have power over you. Do not wait for motivation. Motivation is weak. It fades. The unbreakable man does not rely on fleeting emotion. He relies on discipline. He does what must be done, whether he feels like it or not. The warrior does not wait until he is in the mood to train. The emperor does not wait for inspiration to lead. They act regardless of how they feel, and that is why they succeed while others fail. When others complain, stay silent. When others react, remain calm. When others crumble under pressure, stand tall. A man who cannot be controlled by external forces is a man who cannot be broken. He is untouchable. He is unshaken. He is a force that bends to nothing because he has trained himself to endure anything. Hardship will come. That is guaranteed. But the weak see hardship as punishment, while the strong see it as training. Every struggle is another opportunity to grow. Every challenge is another lesson in discipline. Every setback is another test of resilience. And every time you endure, every time you refuse to break, you become stronger. Until one day, nothing can shake you. Most people live their lives in fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of loss. But the Stoic sees fear for what it is, an illusion. Fear only has power if you submit to it. Face it, and it disappears. Run from it, and it controls you. The unbreakable man does not allow fear to dictate his choices. He acts in spite of it, and that is why he wins. The path to becoming unbreakable is not easy, nor should it be. If it were, everyone would walk it, but most will not. Most will choose comfort over challenge, distraction over discipline, weakness over strength. But if you are willing to commit to it, if you are willing to forge yourself in fire, then nothing, no insult, no hardship, no betrayal, will ever have the power to shake you. The only question is, will you walk that path? Will you choose discipline over comfort? Will you face fear instead of running from it? Will you control your mind instead of letting it control you? The answer to those questions will determine everything. You can remain as you are, or you can become unbreakable. The choice is yours. There will come a time when everything you have built will be tested. Your patience, your discipline, your sense of self. Life will put them under pressure to see if they hold or if they break. Most people do not realize this until it is too late. They live as if the world owes them comfort, as if hardship is something that happens only to others. And then, when the storm comes, they are swept away. The unbreakable man is different. He prepares for hardship before it arrives. He does not expect life to be fair. He does not wait for easier conditions. He knows that no matter how strong he thinks he is, there is always more to endure, always another challenge ahead, always something that will push him past his limits. And because he knows this, he is never caught off guard. A mind that is unbreakable is not one that feels nothing, but one that refuses to be ruled by emotion. Anger, fear, sadness, these things come, but they do not control him. He does not suppress them, nor does he let them dictate his actions. He observes them, acknowledges them, and lets them pass like a river flowing downstream. Others are slaves to their feelings, reacting to every insult, every failure, every inconvenience. The unbreakable man remains still, knowing that nothing outside of him has power unless he allows it. It is not enough to read about strength. It is not enough to admire it in others. If you want to be unbreakable, you must train for it. And training does not mean waiting for hardship to find you. It means seeking it. It means deliberately putting yourself in situations that challenge you, that make you uncomfortable, that test your ability to stay calm under pressure. Most people want to be strong, but they do not want to go through what it takes to get there. They admire discipline, yet refuse to practice it. They wish for resilience, yet avoid anything that might require them to develop it. Strength is not given, it is earned. And the only way to earn it is through struggle. The world is filled with people who say they want to be unbreakable, yet they flinch at the first sign of discomfort. They complain about their circumstances, blame others for their failures, and seek distractions instead of discipline. The man who cannot sit alone in silence, the man who cannot endure boredom, the man who needs constant validation, he is already broken long before life has tested him. The Stoics understood that to be strong, you must become familiar with discomfort. You must detach yourself from the idea that happiness depends on external conditions. You must train yourself to endure hunger, fatigue, failure, rejection, whatever it is that weakens most people. This is why they practiced voluntary hardship, sleeping on the floor when they had a bed, eating simple meals when they could afford feasts, exposing themselves to cold, to heat, to discomfort, not because they had to, but because they knew that a man who is comfortable in suffering is a man who cannot be controlled. What are you doing to prepare yourself for the moment life tests you? Are you waiting for it to happen, or are you already training? Do you put yourself in situations where your patience is tested, where your discipline is required, where your ability to endure is stretched beyond what you thought possible? Or do you live in comfort, hoping that when the challenge comes, you will somehow find the strength to face it? You will not. Strength is not something you suddenly acquire in the moment you need it. It is built over time, through repetition, through deliberate effort, through a willingness to seek out discomfort rather than avoid it. The soldier does not become disciplined when the war begins. He has trained for it long before. The unbreakable man does not find resilience in the moment of crisis. He has built it every day leading up to that moment. Most people will never take this path. They will choose ease over effort. They will tell themselves they are strong without ever testing their limits. And then, when life proves them wrong, they will collapse. The only way to avoid this fate is to train yourself now. Do not wait for hardship. Seek it. Do not hope for strength. Earn it. There will come a day when you will look back and see that everything you once feared, everything that once controlled you, has no power anymore. That is the reward of training. That is the result of discipline, and when that day comes, you will know that no matter what happens, no matter what is taken from you, no matter how hard the world pushes, you will never break, because you have already endured, because you have already faced what others run from, because you have made yourself unbreakable. The greatest enemy you will ever face is not the world, not other people, not even the circumstances life throws at you. It is yourself. It is the voice inside your mind that tells you to quit, the weakness that begs you to take the easy path, the hesitation that keeps you from acting when you know you must. Most people spend their entire lives battling against the outside world, never realizing that the true battle is internal. They try to control everything except for the one thing that actually matters: themselves. The unbreakable man understands this. He does not waste energy trying to bend the world to his will. He focuses only on what he can control: his thoughts, his actions, his response to what happens around him. He does not complain about how things should be. He deals with things as they are. He does not hope for easier conditions. He prepares for harder ones. He does not blame others for his failures. He takes responsibility, knowing that no matter what happens, the only thing that truly matters is what he does next. Most people believe their emotions are in charge. They think anger, fear, sadness. These things come and go as they please, impossible to resist. The unbreakable man knows better. He sees emotions for what they are: passing illusions, signals from the mind, nothing more. He does not deny them, but he does not obey them either. When anger rises, he lets it pass without reacting. When fear creeps in, he acknowledges it but does not bow to it. He does not allow emotion to dictate action. He decides. Imagine walking through life untouchable, not because nothing happens to you, but because nothing moves you. Imagine being immune to insults, unaffected by the opinions of others, unmoved by failure. This is not indifference. This is control. Control over the one thing that matters most: yourself. Most people think strength is something you show when life gets hard, but strength is something you build long before that moment comes. The Stoics trained themselves to face hardship before it arrived. They imagined losing everything, not to dwell in misery, but to prepare themselves, so that if the worst happened, they would not be shaken. This is why they practiced voluntary hardship. They slept on the floor when they had a bed. They ate simple food when they could afford better. They went without comfort, not because they had to, but because they wanted to ensure they were never dependent on it. If you lost everything today, your money, your home, your status, would you collapse? Or would you endure? Would you panic? Or would you remain calm, knowing that nothing external defines you? The answer to that question depends on how you live now. If you train yourself to need comfort, to rely on external security, to expect an easy life, then you will fall apart when difficulty comes. But if you train yourself to endure discomfort, to detach from external things, to prepare for hardship before it arrives, then nothing can break you. There is a simple truth most people ignore. Suffering is inevitable, but weakness is a choice. You will face loss, hardship, and betrayal. That cannot be avoided. But whether these things destroy you or make you stronger, that is up to you. The weak man sees suffering as punishment. The strong man sees it as training. The unbreakable man welcomes it, because he knows that every moment of hardship is another opportunity to sharpen himself. You do not have control over what happens to you, but you have absolute control over how you respond. And in that response, everything is decided. Most people waste time wishing things were different, arguing with reality, hoping for an easier path. The unbreakable man does none of this. He looks at the situation in front of him and asks only one thing: what can I do about it? The modern world breeds weakness. It tells you that you should be comfortable, that you should avoid struggle, that you should seek happiness above all else. But true strength is not found in happiness. It is found in discipline, in control, in the ability to endure whatever life throws your way without losing yourself. The greatest men in history did not live easy lives. They lived hard ones, and because of that, they became unshakable. Every day, you are either training yourself to be weak or training yourself to be strong. Every choice you make, every moment of hesitation, every time you avoid discomfort, you are teaching yourself to fold under pressure. But every time you act despite fear, every time you push through fatigue, every time you face hardship without complaint, you are forging yourself into something that cannot be broken. Strength is not given, it is built. It is built in the moments when no one is watching, in the decisions no one sees, in the discipline you hold yourself to when it would be easier to let go. It is built in silence, in struggle, in repetition, and it is revealed when life tests you, when you are pushed to the edge, when you are given every reason to quit and still choose to stand. Most people will never choose this path. They will live their lives reacting to whatever happens to them, blaming the world for their failures, running from hardship instead of embracing it. But if you are reading this, then you have a choice. You can remain as you are, or you can begin training now. You can decide that from this moment forward, nothing will have the power to break you. Not fear, not loss, not failure. Nothing. That decision is yours to make. But once you make it, there is no going back. There is only one direction, only one mindset, only one path. Forward. Because once you understand that the only thing that truly matters is how you respond, you will never again waste time wishing things were different. You will never again be ruled by emotion. You will never again fear hardship. You will only ask yourself one thing: what must I do next? There will come a moment when everything inside you will tell you to stop. The weight of the struggle, the exhaustion of discipline, the relentless pressure of life, it will all come crashing down, demanding that you give in. This is the point where most people break. Not because they are physically incapable, not because they lack intelligence, but because they have not trained themselves to endure. They have not built the mental fortitude to push through when every instinct is telling them to quit. The unbreakable man is not the one who never feels doubt, who never experiences hardship, who never reaches the edge of his limits. He is the one who, when that moment comes, refuses to yield. He does not run from pain. He does not search for an escape. He does not lower his standards when things become difficult. He stands firm, knowing that endurance is the foundation of all strength. Without it, nothing else matters. Most people are ruled by their impulses. They act only when they feel like it, only when motivation strikes, only when the conditions are perfect. But motivation is weak. It fades. It disappears the moment hardship arises. The unbreakable man does not rely on it. He acts whether he feels like it or not. He does what must be done, not because it is easy, not because he is in the mood, but because he has committed himself to a higher standard. Discipline is the ability to act despite resistance. It is the ability to push forward when your body is screaming for rest, when your mind is flooded with excuses, when comfort is within reach, but you refuse to take it. This is why most men fail. They are strong when conditions are easy, when the path is clear, when there is no struggle. But the moment resistance appears, they fold. They allow fatigue to dictate their effort. They allow frustration to control their decisions. They allow weakness to become a habit. Endurance is not just about physical toughness. It is about mastering the mind. It is about training yourself to endure discomfort, to welcome difficulty, to detach from the need for instant gratification. The modern world is designed to weaken you. Everything is made easier, more convenient, more comfortable. But comfort does not create strength. It destroys it. Every time you take the easy path, every time you choose short-term pleasure over long-term progress, every time you avoid difficulty, you are teaching yourself to be weak. The Stoics understood that suffering is not the enemy. Avoiding suffering is. Seneca wrote that we should periodically live as if we have nothing, wearing simple clothes, eating the most basic food, not because we have to, but because it trains the mind. It reminds us that we can endure, that we are not dependent on luxury, on comfort, on external security. The man who is prepared for hardship before it arrives is the man who will not be broken when it does. Imagine if you treated your entire life as preparation for adversity. If instead of avoiding difficulty you sought it, if instead of fearing hardship you welcomed it, if instead of hoping for an easy life you built yourself into someone who could withstand anything, how different would you be? How much stronger? How much more disciplined? Pain is not something to be feared. It is something to be used. Every time you suffer, every time you endure discomfort without breaking, every time you push past what you thought were your limits, you become stronger. The body does not grow without stress. The mind does not grow without challenge. The soul does not grow without struggle. The unbreakable man understands this. He does not run from pain. He embraces it. He sees it as fuel. Most people say they want strength, but what they really want is an easy way out. They want resilience without hardship, wisdom without failure, discipline without struggle. They want results, but they are unwilling to pay the price. And so they remain weak, not because they lack potential, but because they lack the will to endure. If you want to be unbreakable, you must understand one thing. Nothing is more powerful than consistency. The strongest men are not the ones who make the biggest efforts in a single moment. They are the ones who show up every day, no matter what. They do not skip their training. They do not break their discipline. They do not lower their standards because they feel tired or unmotivated. They act no matter what. There will be days when you do not want to train. There will be days when you do not want to work, when you do not want to push forward, when everything in you screams to stop. Those are the most important days. Those are the days that separate the weak from the strong. Because if you can push through when you do not feel like it, if you can keep going when you are exhausted, when you are frustrated, when you are broken, that is when you become something that cannot be defeated. Most people believe their limits are fixed, that there is a point where they must stop, where they cannot push further. They are wrong. The mind will always try to convince you that you have nothing left long before you actually do. The body will try to shut down before it has truly reached its edge. The difference between the strong and the weak is not talent, not intelligence, not luck. It is the ability to ignore that voice, to keep pushing when the weak man would stop. If you want to be unbreakable, there can be no conditions, no negotiations, no compromises. Either you commit to discipline or you do not. Either you endure or you break. There is no middle ground. There is no shortcut. There is no easy way. The question is, will you do it? Will you push forward when everything tells you to stop? Will you act even when motivation is gone, when exhaustion sets in, when doubt creeps in? Will you refuse to lower your standards, refuse to take the easy path, refuse to give in? The answer to that question will determine everything. The weak man waits for inspiration. The strong man acts despite resistance. The unbreakable man endures no matter what. You know what must be done. The only question is, will you do it? There will come a time when you stand at the edge of exhaustion, where every part of you wants to quit, where the weight of everything you've endured presses down so heavily that you wonder if it's even worth continuing. This is the moment that defines everything. This is where most men break, not because they are incapable, not because they lack strength, but because they have never trained themselves to last beyond this point. They think they have nothing left, but the truth is, they have never even touched their real limits. The unbreakable man understands that what most people see as the end is only the beginning. When his body tells him to stop, when his mind floods with doubt, when pain and fatigue reach unbearable levels, he does not retreat. He pushes forward. He knows that the moment of breaking is an illusion, a trick of the mind designed to protect him from discomfort. He ignores it. He steps past it. And when he does, he discovers something few men ever will, that beyond the breaking point is where true strength begins. Most people never reach this level. They stop when things get difficult. They listen to their doubts. They let fatigue convince them they have nothing left. But they are wrong. The body is capable of far more than the mind allows it to believe. The man who learns to silence doubt, to ignore exhaustion, to push through when every part of him is begging to stop, he is the man who becomes unbreakable. Endurance is not just about how much suffering you can withstand. It is about whether you can still act while suffering. Anyone can endure pain when there is no action required. But can you still perform when your muscles are failing? Can you still think clearly when your mind is clouded with frustration? Can you still make the right decisions when everything inside you wants to take the easy way out? That is what separates the weak from the strong. The Stoics knew that the body was not the real battlefield, the mind was. They trained themselves to endure suffering, not by avoiding it, but by confronting it head-on. They did not seek comfort. They did not wait for easier circumstances. They tested themselves daily so that when true hardship came, they were already prepared. Marcus Aurelius led Rome through war, disease, and betrayal, yet he did not allow these hardships to shake his composure. Why? Because he understood that nothing external could dictate his inner state unless he allowed it. If you want to be unbreakable, you must train your mind to reject weakness. You must become the kind of man who does not need motivation, who does not rely on fleeting emotions to act. You must train yourself to push forward even when it feels impossible, even when every voice in your head is screaming for relief. Because the moment you do, The moment you step beyond what you thought was possible, you will realize that you have been operating at a fraction of your true capability. You will see that the limits you believed in were never real. This is why the modern world produces so few strong men, because it never forces them to test their limits. Everything is designed to be easy, to be comfortable, to require as little effort as possible, and so men grow soft. They become weak, not because they were born that way, but because they never trained themselves to endure. They never pushed beyond their own self-imposed limitations. And when hardship comes, when life demands resilience, they collapse. The unbreakable man does not allow himself to become one of them. He does not wait for hardship to find him. He seeks it out. He does not run from discomfort. He steps toward it. He does not lower his standards when things get hard. He raises them, because he knows that every moment of suffering is an opportunity. Every test of endurance is a lesson in strength. Every time he refuses to quit, he becomes more than he was before. Imagine if you lived this way. Imagine if, instead of waiting for challenges, you trained for them. If, instead of avoiding struggle, you embraced it. If, instead of fearing pain, you used it as fuel. How different would you be? How much stronger? How much more capable? Most men live as if suffering is something to be avoided, something to complain about, something to run from. The unbreakable man does not see it this way. He understands that pain is the price of power, that hardship is the price of resilience, that suffering is the price of greatness, and he pays that price willingly. You must decide whether you will be like the rest, ruled by comfort, defeated by hardship, limited by fear, or whether you will rise above them, whether you will allow yourself to be broken, or whether you will stand tall no matter what comes. No one will do this for you. No one is coming to save you. The world will not make things easier. You must become stronger. You must learn to endure. You must step beyond the illusion of your limits and discover what you are truly capable of. Because the truth is this: you are capable of far more than you think. You are stronger than you believe. You have more inside you than you have ever realized. But you will never know it until you test yourself, until you push through when everything in you wants to stop, until you reach the moment where you would have quit before, and this time you do not. The weak man waits. The strong man acts. The unbreakable man endures. The only question left is, who will you be? There will be a day when you look back at your life, at every hardship, every moment of doubt, every time you stood at the edge of quitting and chose to continue. And on that day, you will see that everything you once thought would break you only made you stronger. The suffering, the struggle, the battles you fought alone, these were not obstacles, they were the path. The weak man looks at his pain and sees a reason to stop. The unbreakable man looks at his pain and sees a reason to push harder. He understands something most will never realize. Nothing can break him unless he allows it. His strength is not in avoiding hardship, but in stepping into it, in meeting it head-on, in proving to himself that no matter how heavy the burden, no matter how brutal the struggle, he will not fall. Most men live their lives in avoidance. They avoid pain. They avoid challenge. They avoid anything that forces them to see themselves as they truly are. And because of this, they never grow. They live small lives, defined by comfort, ruled by fear, waiting for something to change. But nothing changes until they do. The unbreakable man knows this. He does not wait for life to hand him strength. He builds it. He does not expect to wake up one day suddenly resilient. He trains himself to be. Every morning he wakes up and chooses discipline over ease, effort over excuses, action over hesitation. And because he does this, he becomes the kind of man who cannot be shaken. No one is born unbreakable. No one wakes up one day immune to fear, doubt, or pain. Strength is built in the small moments, in the daily choices, in the discipline to do what must be done regardless of how you feel. It is built when you refuse to skip the workout, when you refuse to stay in bed when the alarm goes off, when you refuse to let weakness win even once, because every time you choose strength, you make it harder for anything to break you. What most people fail to realize is that every hardship in life is a chance to train. Every failure is a lesson. Every insult is an opportunity to practice patience. Every loss is a test of resilience. The weak man sees these things as setbacks. The unbreakable man sees them as necessary. He knows that without resistance, he cannot grow. Without suffering, he cannot harden himself. Without pressure, he cannot sharpen his mind. The world will never hand you the life you want. It will never give you strength, discipline, or resilience. It will never make things easy for you. And that is a gift. Because it means you must build yourself into something that does not need life to be easy. It means you must train yourself to thrive under pressure, to stay composed under stress, to move forward even when everything in you wants to stop. Most people will never understand this. They will search for shortcuts, for easier ways, for comfort disguised as progress. They will complain about their circumstances, blame others for their failures, and never realize that the power to change was in their hands all along. But if you are reading this, then you have no excuse. You know the truth. And the truth is this: your strength, your resilience, your ability to endure is your responsibility, no one else's. When life tests you, as it always will, you will have a choice: break or continue, complain or adapt, fall or rise. And if you have trained yourself, if you have conditioned your mind to see struggle as training, then no matter what happens, you will endure. You will remain standing. You will refuse to be broken. There will come a time when you realize that nothing can touch you, that no insult, no failure, no hardship has the power to shake you, that no loss, no rejection, no moment of pain can take away what you have built inside yourself. That is the reward for choosing discipline. That is the result of enduring when others quit. That is what it means to be unbreakable. But you must decide. Will you train for this? Will you commit to a life of discipline, a life of resilience, a life where nothing controls you except your own will? Or will you remain as you are, hoping for an easier path, waiting for a life that demands nothing from you? The answer to that question will define you. It will determine whether, when the moment of testing comes, you stand or fall. It will determine whether you become one of the many who break under pressure, or one of the few who refuse to. You already know what must be done. The only thing left is to do it. To wake up each day and choose to push forward. To embrace struggle instead of avoiding it. To commit to mastery over yourself. Most men will not. But you are not most men. You do not seek the easy road. You do not lower your standards. You do not let weakness take hold. You step forward when others hesitate. You act when others wait. You endure when others quit. And because of that, you will never be broken. This is the path. Walk it.